Yields. Chair now recognizes Mr. Ryan from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both for being here. General Cavoli, I want to add to the well-deserved praise and recognition. Couldn't imagine a more critical time for your leadership and could not imagine a better leader. And the whole country is thankful to you. And I think just want to, on behalf of my constituents in particular, thank you. Your leadership, not only as EUCOM commander, but as SACEUR, has been indispensable. And as I'm sure everyone in this room knows, that position has a deep historical significance, starting with General and ultimately President Eisenhower as our first Supreme Allied Commander, in a way that is truly staggering to all of us, including, the chair has weighed in on this as the ranking member and many others. The plan that was floated in March to restructure combatant commands and give up U.S. command of that role, I think would be a massive step backwards. You've talked a little bit about it in front of the Senate last week. One of my colleagues from the other side of the aisle, Mr. Bacon, has said, quote, "It signals a weakening commitment to NATO," and I think it's wrong. Former SACEUR Admiral Stavridis said for the United States to give up the role of Supreme Allied Commander of NATO would be seen in Europe as a significant signal of walking away from the alliance. Can you speak a little bit about, given your unique view into that role, how would Russia and Putin specifically view us backing away from that role?
Thanks, Congressman. First of all, thanks for pointing out the role General Eisenhower had as the first SACEUR. You might imagine his likeness, his photographs, busts of him are all over the headquarters. There's one sitting behind my desk that looks over my shoulder, checking my homework every day. So if you want to feel a little bit of pressure ever, just take a job that Ike had. Big shoes to fill indeed. Yeah, everybody relies on SACEUR. Our allies want American leadership. Our allies would like to have an American as SACEUR. From our perspective, we gain quite a bit of influence from it, right? I have a very loud voice inside Europe as a result of my position, and I think those are to our advantage. Of course, what the United States decides to do is always going to be a policy matter, and there are other considerations that our civilian leaders will take into consideration as they think about these things. What do the Russians see? You know, I think that of all the nations in the alliance, the Russians have the most respect for the strength of the U.S. military. They respect all the militaries, and especially the collective military, but we are the military that stands out as something for them to worry about. And so an officer who has the ability to command U.S. forces probably is a bigger problem for them than not.
I can only imagine, truly, what General and former President Eisenhower would think about us even considering walking away from that position. I think it's embarrassing and pathetic, which leads me to my follow-up question for you, Ms. Thompson. Given your opening, albeit very short and heavy on buzzwords, posture statement, where you use the term factory reset, which I have no idea what that means in the context of something so critical and nuanced as what we're talking about. But given that, I wanted to ask you what you mean by that. And specifically, in January of this year, actually, January 2025, Senator Mike Lee called explicitly for the United States to leave NATO. Is that correct?
Again, I represent...
Would you know, since you were his national security advisor up through January?
I left on January 20th, 2025, so if it was after that, that was not something that I would have seen.
Well, do you think we should leave NATO then?
Again, I represent the Department of Defense. I can only speak on behalf of the Department of Defense, and Secretary Hegseth has been very clear we are not stepping away from
So what
NATO.
does he mean then on behalf of the Department of Defense by factory reset? Is it us walking away from the leadership of NATO and you heard some of the consequences of that? Is it us abandoning NATO? At a minimum, if we're going to make such a major change, I know you're doing your posture review, but I think we owe the American people a transparency around something that would be so impactful to our security.
So first and foremost, on the SACEUR question, if the question is the department considering that change, my definitive answer is no. Second part on factory reset, the Secretary in his remarks to the North Atlantic Council and to the Ukraine Defense Contract Group was very clear that by factory reset, what we mean is returning the focus of the alliance to defense and deterrence of Europe, to the core mission, and to be frank, to Eisenhower's original mission set and call for the alliance, which is conventional defense and deterrence in Europe. Certainly that's what we are expecting of our European allies, with the U.S. as the nuclear strategic deterrent backstop as well. But factory reset really does mean returning to the core fundamental mission of the alliance, which is defense and deterrence of Europe.
Gentleman's time's